Hey everybody, how you chuckleheads out there? Welcome to Rhonda Lee Jones Comedy Lab. I am Rhonda Lee Jones, and today I would like to talk with you a little bit more about creating your comedic persona. As you can see, I am very seriously engaged in that right now. And a big problem. I'm just going to jump right on in. Let me talk about my channel a little bit. I created this channel specifically for people who are interested in getting into comedy or in doing any other creative endeavor and just needs that little extra push to get going. I'm hoping to inspire. I want to be the Bob Ross of comedy is what I want to do. This is what it looks like, everybody. So the channel is for aspiring comedians and fellow newbies like me, because I've only been doing it for a little while. I've been doing it less than a year. I'm still in the stages of going to open mics and stuff like that. So it's for aspiring comedians and newbies and fans of comedy who just kind of are interested in the creative process and want to know what goes on inside a comedian's mind. Scary place in here. And also, whatever, for more experienced comics who just kind of want to be reminded of some of the basics or want to revisit some ideas or maybe get some new ideas themselves for tools that they can use. Hopefully, we're always learning. So I want to be a resource, to use my experience as a resource, for you guys, because we're all in this together. We're all in this together, making people laugh. Hopefully, more with us than at us, but whatever, that works too. My so welcome to the lab where I share my comedy experiments with you. So, in talking about creating the comedic persona, I'm going to be sharing some tools with you today. What I used to get going on working with my own persona. The hardest part about that, I think, is figuring out what specific aspects of your personality you want to highlight. There's so much going on in all of us. What is it that people see when they look at us? You want to amplify that as much as possible, um, and really have fun with it. Create a character that is you. It is you. Turn yourself into a character. You've heard people say, "Oh, he's a real character." That's because he or she has, just this big personality. Their traits are really amplified. So that's what you want to do for yourself. But how do you do that? How do you know specifically what to highlight in your own personality? So what I did was, okay, I started with a couple of questions really, that were asked of me by a fellow comedian. And the two questions were, do the people who see you, do they know you? Do they know who you are when you're up there? Are you giving them a predictable brand experience? So that's what you're shooting for. You don't, you know, when you have constraints on your creativity, that makes you more creative. You get to figure out sort of how to work around that and say what you want to say. So try to decide if people know who you are when they see you on stage, and what is your brand going to be? Who are you? Who are you, people? And the second question is, why do you want to get up on the stage? What is it that draws you up there? What is your why? You may have heard people talking about their why. This, is something that may require some thought. So I would, get out pad and paper and, write a little essay for yourself. Why I want to do comedy, and see what comes out. You don't have to make it perfect. Just brainstorm. Just write stuff down. Whatever pops into your mind, write it down. And I would revisit that the next day and the following day as well, and just redo the exercise for like 3 days in a row, and then go back to it and see what comes out as truth. Because when I answered that question for myself, for the person who was asking it of me, I said one thing, but then the next day I dug deeper and found out what my real reason was. What what was my what was my underlying reason for wanting to get on that stage? And I'm going to share it with you. It's a little bit scary to share it because it feels so vulnerable, but we have to be vulnerable as comedians, weirdly enough. What I told him was I want to get up on that stage because I love words and I'm a storyteller, and that's true. And that helped me figure out some things that I wasn't doing that I needed to be doing. But later on that night or the next day, I thought, I want somewhere to belong. Belonging. I want to find people who are like me and who want who sort of have an interesting, quirky way of looking at the world and who like to laugh and who like to make other people laugh. And so part of my reason for being up there is a social reason. And belonging, weirdly enough, is partly social and partly it has to do with your relationship to yourself. So that's getting kind of deep, guys, I know, but those are the kinds of things you need to know because that bit of knowledge about myself that I dropped on myself, that's leading me to stories that I can tell. Um, Not that I'm going to get up on stage and say, I'm going to tell a story about belonging, but that's an underlying motivator for telling a particular story, or for me having gotten myself into a situation that led to that story. So, or whether I feel like I belong always, or whether I feel like a little bit of an outsider, because the outsider or the insider, or the insider who seems like an outsider, or the outsider who or the insider who feels like an outsider, um, all of those things are part of who you are as a person, and it's great and it can be used. So ask yourself those two questions. I started with those two questions, and it led me to the resources I'm going to share with you later. What I did, the next step I took was I wrote a big long page. Okay, the exercise just said write down 10 emotional qualities about yourself. But I can't stop at 10. I have a lot of words and there's a lot of stuff about me. So I wrote down all of these things about myself. I start with some of them are, I'm going to read some of them to you. It's upbeat. When things are working for me on stage, I'm upbeat. If I try to be more mellow, it doesn't work. It doesn't happen. I don't feel like myself. Um, Bold, is one thing that I wrote down, but also timid. There, and I wrote bold, then timid. Sometimes I will do something, just rush out, right out and do something, and then I think, oh my God, what did I just do? So you don't have to just rack your brains. Do this quickly. Write down everything you can think of. If you get 10 pages of it, fine, whatever. Do 10 pages. What you're going to find is that you have two things happening. You're going to repeat a lot of similar things, like I was talking about, being a little, being able to do the dits, being ditzy. Last week I was talking about that, and then I shared the information of that. Um, the information, here I go. I'm doing it. I'm showing you, not telling you. The um, the meaning of that is to be eccentrically silly. So eccentric came up on my list, ditzy came up on my list, silly came up on my list. So those are kind of three very related terms. So you're going to find those repeating terms for yourself, and that's going to be very helpful. So let it happen, guys. Whatever comes out, comes out. And don't confine yourself to just emotional qualities. If you think of something else about yourself that's not an emotional quality, put it on the list, but try to get in as many emotional qualities as you can. Make sure you're doing those emotion words, because you're going to need to tap into that emotion in order to make your sets work. So that's going to happen. You're going to get those repeaters. Another thing that's going to happen that might be a little confusing, so I'm going to explain it to you right now and tell you, let it happen, is you're going to have words that describe you that are opposites of each other. So you're going to have some contradictions in there. You're probably going to have a lot of contradictions in there, because that's people. We contradict ourselves all the time. Um, Hydrating is very important. So And that follows to the next step of this. Once you have this, you might want to let it sit for a day and do it again and see if you can narrow down the list to a fewer words. But and that, yeah, definitely do that. Definitely do that. Do it again the next day and see if you can narrow it down to fewer words. Take those things that are related and kind of come up with one word that encompasses that. I don't know if I'm going to go with ditzy in materials later, or whether I'm going to go with eccentric. But it helps me to be a little bit more silly, a little bit more fun and carefree if I had the word ditzy, sort of underlying somewhere. And I know some of you might be thinking, oh, but that's, why are you insulting yourself like that? I'm not seeing it as an insult. It's not an insult if you don't feel it to be an insult. Um, and you know, it's funny because it's funny, guys. We kind of rag on ourselves a little bit in comedy anyway, or a lot. So, you're inviting people to laugh. That's what you're doing. You're inviting people to laugh, but you are owning that. There's power in owning that word. So do that for yourself. Um, those contradictions, you're going to want to take note of those contradictions. Find those contradictions because you can get comedic tension out of those contradictions. Those like the bold but timid. That's something I do, and it's something I do in real life too. I sort of dramatize that in real life sometimes when I'm goofing around. Like I might stick my tongue out behind somebody's back and then um, act like I wish I hadn't done that. Like, oh God, what did I do? So I make my friends laugh that way sometimes. Some of the things that I wrote about myself, scared but curious. Just because I'm worried about an object, like, I don't know, like a bug on the ground, I might poke it anyway. I'm scared but curious. Um, I I'm pretty optimistic, but sometimes I just wonder if something weird or bad is going to happen. Um, so I've got those two things working at the same time. Um, I'm a smart person, but sometimes just life confuses me. People confuse me sometimes. I don't know why they do some of the things that they do, and I think all you guys are crazy. So that's that's part of my contradictions. The next thing is another one of those things that goes a little bit deep. So give yourself some space with this. You're going to have an emotional reaction to it, but that's okay. That's what happens. So you might want to spend a little bit longer working on this particular thing or letting it settle. Write down, do a little brainstorm about one or two things that you wish wasn't true about yourself. That's ditzy was one of those things. Ditzy and confused, not able to properly get into a bar stool without being really awkward about it. I'm going to create a stage show around that one day. But these are some things that are it can be embarrassing. It can be a little humiliating. And seeing a little bit of your embarrassment, a little bit of that in an act can create that comedic tension for your audience that you're later going to dispel by making them laugh. And so that helps with that helps you reframe that moment for yourself instead of it helps you laugh at yourself. And life is just more fun when you can laugh at yourself. Yeah, you're goofy sometimes. Yeah, Rhonda, you're goofy sometimes. Or, maybe most of the time. So I had to really look at that and admit that that was something that sometimes I wish wasn't true about myself. So not only do I sometimes wish it wasn't true, wish I could be smooth and charismatic and all those good things sometimes. But I'm taking this thing that I wanted to go away and I'm amplifying it. There's this can be a huge a huge self acceptance exercise for you. So allow yourself to feel those emotions that come up when you start working with these things. You're taking a deep look at yourself. It's going to feel weird. It's going to be weird. I'm just telling you that ahead of time. It's going to be weird. You're going to have feelings about it. You're going to feel certain things about it. Just let yourself have that. And then later on, hopefully, you'll stop wishing it wasn't true. You'll just learn to really get into who you are and who you are as a person. So something that you may not be completely comfortable with about yourself might be one of your greatest assets as a comedian. So yeah, there's a thing for you. Also, my face does things. You know, I have a I have a face for comedy. Whatever. I'm using it. So that's just something I just went over. The more things that I came up with about myself, because apparently I love talking about myself, uh, I came up with quirky. I know I'm a quirky person. I'm also Southern. I don't know if you could tell or not, but um, one of one of the things that I've done my whole life is I've tried to step out of that and explore other things besides things that I consider to be highly Southern. I didn't want to be seen just as that, so I think I left that behind a little bit. Honestly, I'm really fascinated by California for one thing. And I mean, I do yoga, I meditate, I do things. I know that's not just like a California thing, but that's the way those things were thought of in decades past. And I think I would really have enjoyed going there and sort of experiencing what it's like to be there. I've been there since then, and yes, I had a great time. But I then later came back. I'm coming back to my Southern roots and looking at the tension, the contradiction between the things about me that people don't consider to be particularly Southern and the things about me that are highly Southern. People, I can catch a chicken better than anybody out there, probably. Don't even mess with me about that. I can catch my chicken before you catch your chicken. So, yeah, I got that. I've got some things nailed. Um, I don't hunt, I don't fish, I don't understand hunting and fishing. So, I mean, but there's tension there. There's tension in that, and I can have fun with that. So that's part of my persona. And because I'm curious, and maybe I can be a little bit clueless sometimes, I get into these situations that are funny. I just wrote I'm going to tell you guys, I just wrote a set that I haven't tried out yet, but it's about how I almost peed on an alligator. I'm going to say that I almost peed on an alligator one time. Guys, it was horrifying. It was crazy. And that happened to me because of who I am. I have misadventures and they're funny. They're funny later. It wasn't so funny while it was happening. But I'm going to tell that story on stage the next time I'm up and see what happens, see how it's received and see if it really helps to define who I am up there. Help to see if it if it helps to create a sort of a persona for me. Uh, that sounds like something additional. It sounds like clothing I'm putting on. This is completely. I'm being authentic with these stories. It's something that is authentic. It it illustrates my authenticity, but just in a big funny way. I hope it's funny. I'm gonna try my best to make it funny. So one of the things I came up with in my journey to define myself as a comedian is a quirky or eccentric Southern adventurer and storyteller because I have to tell stories in order to make it work. I think I mentioned that before. My routines work if they're stories. For one thing, I can remember them better because I get distracted up there. Um, and if I have a story, then I can jump back into the flow after I've done some crowd work because I love crowd work. So I can jump back and find my place in my story and keep going. So It just kind of helps me. And also, I just love stories. Stories. I love stories. I was a journalist. I've written some novels. I just love stories. I love story art. I love dramatic tension, all that stuff, and all that stuff can be in your comedy as well. And I want that in mind. So therefore, I'm telling stories. So the more what did I come up with here? What I came up with, I think right now I'm settling on. Okay, ditzy Southern misadventurer. I might actually get rid of the word ditzy, and I don't know. It sounds so fun though. I don't know if I can ditch it. So for right now, I'm going with ditzy Southern misadventurer, and I've also written down eccentric Southern belle telling fun stories of her misadventures. So see, that is at least a definition that I can begin to work with, and I hadn't even worked on that before. And so I started thinking about my look, and I thought, well, how do you like to look? What's fun for you? What's fun for you? And then just really make sure that pops. So what I'm wearing today is representative of that. It's this feels good. This feels good. I like this. I'm going to go around in this today. I'm going to start really having fun with clothing again because this is I like to dress quirky, you know, and in a colorful way as a kid, as a teenager, and a college kid. And I stopped doing that for some reason. I think because I started listening to other people tell me not to be so interesting and not to be so whatever they were telling me not to be. But I think this is probably what that would have evolved into. So I'm going back to it. I'm going to let it happen. So comedy has become this great adventure of self discovery for me. So I'm loving it. So your look is part of that. You know, how do you feel? Okay, I've been collecting these bracelets lately. And so bracelets are, you know, definitely becoming a part of my look. I like colorful jewelry. Um, I have some big, obnoxious movie star glasses that I like. I'm going to go get them. I call them movie star glasses, and I don't care what anyone thinks about that. Maybe I'm evolving into, you know, this southern eccentric woman who thinks she's a movie star. I don't know. Maybe that's where this is going, and I'm going to become the crazy cat lady or crazy bird lady or something. But I have these, and I love them, darling. This is just it's amazing, and I just want to have fun with my personality and do voices and hopefully just have fun with it. Just have fun with who you are. Who are you? Who do you want to be? Who do you not want to be? Have fun with all of that. And I'll put these on my head because I like the way they feel up there, and they kind of look like Mickey Mouse ears. So I have these articles that I googled a few articles, and this is just pretty much what comes up in the search. And don't worry about writing it down because I'm actually going to give you my email address for you to write to me and request this little tiny little list of resources. Because the reason I'm doing that is because all these things I did for myself, and there's more. There's more stuff. There's a couple more things that I did that I'm not necessarily talking about today, but I'm I'm going to, these are all just my notes, but I'm going to take it and put it together into a cohesive tool. And I'm going to do that and send that out to anyone who wants it tomorrow. It'll probably be in the form of a questionnaire, just things to ask yourself and kind of how to approach these questions. And then at the end of that, hopefully you'll have a bunch of stuff that you've written down that will be a starting point for you to either start to develop your comedic personality, or if you're a more experienced comic, to revisit, to revisit what you're doing because maybe you've evolved since you started doing this. Maybe there's something more to you now. I think this exercise is worth doing every few years, just for the self knowledge, guys. You're going to have so many experiences that that you haven't had yet. So, and it's going to affect who you are and how you show up as yourself. So this is fun. I think this is so much fun. I've got chills right now. I'm just I'm just having so much fun doing this because I'm learning so much about myself and about comedy, because this is the relevant thing for me now. So I'm really paying attention to things. And I discovered a podcast that's really cool that a friend of mine turned me on to. It's called You Made It Weird. Find that podcast and listen to it because it is some great. It's a collection of really great interviews, like really sort of down to earth interviews that one comic is conducting with other comedians. So, and it just it's really it's very easygoing. It's funny. It feels like hanging out with friends. So it's great for a pick me up too. But they also randomly talk about the comedic process and their process. And actually, I listened to my first full episode of it, and it was a pilot, and they were talking about comedic personas. Oh my God. So definitely give that a listen. That's one resource for you. But these resources are one is called Five Ways to Discover Your Comedy Persona, Your Unique, Authentic Comedic Voice. And this is by goldcomedy.com. Don't worry, I'm gonna send that to you. And also How to Develop a Comedy Persona. And it's from, I have no idea, spotlight.com. And 20 Comic Masks. This is just kind of a fun thing that it's not so much the persona, but it'll get you thinking about the tools that you're using. Like I'm using storytelling, and I'm probably going to get more physical with my comedy because, as you can see, I like to move around when I talk. And also, when I act stuff out, when I use my face, people laugh. That's so far I've done little things on stage, and it's really it worked. I had to do that in order to illustrate something I was talking about because I was like, oh my God, this is funny. Why are you guys not laughing? Here, let me show you. That's when they laughed. So I made a mental note of that. I'm going to be doing some more of that. And you might also, one of these articles has a list of 10 comedians. And just without giving it too much thought, circle the one that you think is most like you. And honestly, I circled Lucille Ball. Go figure. And she was a very excuse me, she was a very physical comedic actress, and she used her face really well. And I really, she had the whole ditzy redhead thing going. I love her to death. Maybe she's my comedic mother, maybe. um so, which is an honor. If I am her type, if I am the same sort of comedian that or comedic actress that she was, I feel really honored by that because I was a huge fan as a kid. So do that. Figure out who you're like because that might give you some more. That might give you sort of some more ideas about things you could do. Like for instance, I did one little thing where it turned out that I was more like Leslie Jones than anybody else in that square. And I thought, I'm not as my personality isn't as big as hers. I'm not, but maybe, I'm certainly larger than life than say Ellen DeGeneres because she's chill and she's got this really calm thing going. And if I try to do that, I just mess everything up. I can't do that. I've got to go big, like Leslie Jones. And Leslie Jones is a very physical comedian. So and that's what made me think I should do that. I should do that, and because of her, and obviously because of Lucille Ball, because these ladies did some great stuff with that. And also, another thing I have in common with Leslie Jones is that I've got to get that emotion in there. she's very emotional, very high energy comic. And so I have to keep that in mind because I have to keep the energy up. And it feels better for me to keep the energy up. So I know that's a big hint. Like if my energy starts going down, I need to look into that because that's a signal probably that that's a tell. That's a tell that that something's going on that I might need to look into, that maybe I'm tired or just something's maybe a little off. So those are that's what I did. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm working with. I'm excited to take my new set out and to take my new set out for a spin and see if it does indeed sort of help me sort of refine what I'm doing up there. So like I said, I'm going to create a tool for that tomorrow or send it out tomorrow to whoever wants it. So this is my email address. I know I'm going old school here. I swear I'm going to learn how to do all the nice little things where I can just add stuff in, like emojis and all the cute things that other YouTubers put in their videos. I want those things for myself. But for right now, we've got index cards. So it says Rhonda with an H, Rhonda L. Jones at gmail.com. Don't forget to put that middle initial L in there so it doesn't go to that other Rhonda Jones who's probably gotten a lot of my emails because people forget my middle initial if they don't see it. So that is all I have for you today. Please like and share and subscribe to my channel and tell everybody about it and turn on your notifications so that you'll know when I've got something new out. So far, I've been doing this on Saturday morning. I know I did it a little bit later today because I spent all this time preparing and really making this video as good for you as I possibly could. So that's hopefully a level up for me, for us. And I really hope that this helps you do whatever it is you're doing out there with your creative life. And I would love to hear about it. And I would also love to hear about homework. You have homework. I want you to make one of those pages for yourself with all the emotional qualities. I want you to actually sit down and do that. Even if you don't do any of the other exercises, and even if you're not a comedian, if you're just watching this because whatever, you think I'm brilliant, just do that. Do that for the fun of it. See what comes out. See who you are. And if you want to share a couple of those little things, or if you distill that into a persona for yourself, or sort of maybe a 3-word descriptor of who you are, then I would love to hear about that in the comments below. Until next time, guys. Bye. Love you.